Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together.
Hey, ambitious leader. Welcome back to Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast. Carol and I are so excited to have Paulus Krause here today with us to dive into emotional intelligence. And we know you as a leader who's listening, emotional intelligence plays such a massive role in everything that you do as a leader, and you probably don't even realize it. I know this was my experience. I have had the honor of working with Tina as one of my mentors in leadership, and she has been such a pivotal person, as we've had other guests on the podcast here, in my leadership and my transformation, and really defining the irresistible bold leader piece, and that we talk a lot about on this podcast. So without further ado, Tina, welcome. And we are so excited to have you here and really dive into a topic that is very dear to our hearts. And I feel like it's like we know of it, but we don't like speak into it to really understand what this is, the role that it plays, and the impact that it really has on us as leaders as we show up in all areas of our lives as a leader. So welcome, Tina.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. Very excited about it. Thank you.
So please get us started. Share a little bit about your journey yourself and what you're up to with the Global Leadership Academy.
Amazing. That's a big question. There's a lot there. So hi, everyone. My name is Paulus Krause, and I am a team transformation trainer. And that is not something that I have always been. So I started my whole journey. I like to say that I was on the ladder, right? At corporate, I had been in corporate for 22 years. I had been inside in the field and internally in all the positions, worked my way up into leadership. And literally at probably the height of my career in January of 2015, I got a call from my 24-year-old daughter on a Sunday morning at 10 a.m. I still know the day and the time that I got that call, but the call was, "Mom, something really bad happened last night." And it was at a point in my life where everything on paper in my life looked really great, right? Like if you look at, I was making the income, I had the six figures, I had the title, I had this amazing family. I had a great husband. Like on paper, everything looked really great. And inside, I was in this there has to be more. There has to be something different. Something's just not there. Something's just not right. I was always searching for something, but I didn't know what. Today, I know I was searching on the outside instead of on the inside, but that's where I was in that moment. And when I got that phone call on that Sunday morning, it literally stopped my whole life. Literally the world shut down and stopped. It's every parent's worst call that they, think about getting. And long story short, my daughter was severely addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I was pretending not to know.
Oh, sorry.
And so I pulled her home. She came home, and I literally called my boss and said, "I'm not coming in for the week." And we sat in the house and we laughed and we cried and we reconnected. And, we really sat and dug deeper than we had ever been before. Because, my programming is really great on the surface level. And so we dug and dug and dug and dug. And that Friday, I sent her with a one-way plane ticket to drug and alcohol rehab. And, I watched her go up that escalator, and now she's no longer in my sight. And I sat there in that moment, and I went into self-beat up. I went into self-sabotage. I went into, you suck as a human. You're a terrible mother. It started going. And so I say that I sent her to drug and alcohol rehab, and I immediately was like, something's got to give here. I get to go to my own rehab. And I didn't know what that was in the moment. I call it emotional rehab now, but it was really me starting to take myself on and going, what's working and what's not working in your life. And so I started listening to podcasts and reading books and, eventually found my way into transformational leadership. But it was through that process that I was really able to just stop my life. I was caught up in this rat race of just doing what I thought I was supposed to do, doing what I thought everybody expected me to do. And I was creating results, but I didn't really get that they weren't the results that I personally wanted to create. It was what everybody else thought what success looked like. And so through that process, just really took myself on. And about a year and a half later, as I had gone to a couple of retreats, I was like, I want to have a retreat. Why can't I have a retreat? So booked some space at the Goodman Center, and 60 days later, 45 women showed up.
Wow.
And it was a day-long retreat called Choose Happy. And it was standing on that stage in that moment that I knew that this was what I was supposed to be doing. Like, if these tools can change my life this much, if these tools and these processes can really create my joy and my happiness, I get to do that for others for the rest of my life. So a year later, I walked away from the fancy title and all the stuff that was secure. And I started my own business. And so for the last however many years, I've just really been supporting individuals and teams and couples in some cases and teens in some cases, right? But just really supporting people to create tools in their life that work for them, right? To create tools in their life that work for them versus us running around on this rat race in this noisy, busy, crazy world, not even knowing what it is that we're creating or pretending not to know the results that we were creating, which is what I was doing. So today I get to transform people just like those helped me transform.
Wow.
It was a long story to one question.
What a story, right? I'm sure you've probably heard her story, Alex, but I'm tearing up as you're saying it, and especially as a mother, and very much understanding that story. I've had a history in my family of some mental illness, and it's a very challenging road, including the addiction that can go alongside that, right? And your recognition of the value of your emotional intelligence, your emotional quotient just touches me greatly, especially because I very much resonate with that story. And maybe you do, my friend, with living everybody else's plan for my life. It was very much a part of my story. And so this great depth that you've dived into right here, right now, to help us come forward. I can't wait for you to really dive in and take us on this journey that you've been on. What were your next steps? What happened next?
Yeah. Well, she went to her 30 days of rehab. And I love this story because it's just so every parent what happens, right? But she came home and she was great. I mean, she was on fire. She was clear. She was alive. She was, she was ready to take on the world. And, I'm sitting back and I've been waiting for this her whole life because we've always been super close and I've always known that we were going to do something together. I just didn't know what it looked like. And she was always running in the other direction and we just weren't together in our own vision, right? And so she comes back and in my head, it's like, okay, we get to start our vision now. Here we go. My vision, not our vision. And we get to start my vision now. Here we go. And she's like, Mom, here's what I figured out in rehab. I want to move to New York. We live in Wisconsin. So I want to move across the country and I'm not having kids. Big deep breath. I had been through some of the work by now. So like big deep breath. Okay. Interesting. Okay, great. So she went and she did that. But guess what? When I allowed, I say allow, I wasn't going to stop it for sure. But when I allowed myself to just go with it and breathe into it and trust it and allow it, because in my head, I was worried she was running back into addiction, running back into all the other stuff, right? She went and she created magic. when she was gone. She
Wow.
went to psychic school. Today she's this powerful healer. She came back from that time in solitude, because sometimes we just need to go into solitude and figure it out, right? And sometimes it might be an hour and sometimes it might be 2 years. She came back
Yeah.
after a year. But she was super clear, and she was so clear that now we were clear together and we were clear on the same page. And we were
Wow.
like, we want the same vision now, right? We're ready, like she's ready. She's ready. So several years later today, we've opened up a retreat center in Florida. Like, right? We get to create those
Wow.
safe spaces for people to come to. And the beauty of how we get to work together today is she's this powerful spiritual healer. I am a powerful transformation coach. So from the ground and from spirit, right, all together, we can really wrap around
Wow.
people
Mm.
and create magic in a safe space, which is
Mm.
at the motherland in Florida, where we've
Wow.
just really set it up for people to come in and literally walk through transformation. I mean, everything about that retreat center, just like in Global Leadership Experience, which we'll go in a second, like it's really about creating safe space. Because when I think back to my corporate years, what was missing? What was missing? What was missing? I
Mm.
didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
I didn't feel
Yeah.
safe. I couldn't have grown even if the right programs would have been there, because I didn't feel safe. People will not grow until they feel safe to grow, until they
Yeah.
have a safe space to actually practice in, and the support that's wrapped around it to actually move. And so today we've created those spaces in two different ways, personally and professionally. So we've got this retreat center where people can come and just, it's a 3-day all inclusive, and we wrap around all the transformational stuff and just really, really dig into that person, mind, body, and soul. On the
Wow.
other side of it, from a professional perspective, we've stood up the Global Leadership Academy. And so this is something that it's just brand new. We're running our first program starting in September, but it's safe space, it's online, but it's the last day. So when I left corporate, I literally walked out of the doors on my very last day, and I went to the airport and I got on a plane and I went to a transformational program.
Wow.
And it was that transformational program that really allowed me to have the space to take myself on. And it, again, it mattered so much that we get to create that for other people now, right? So that's my vision, it's my mission. We've created this both personally and professionally for somebody that is interested in this work, that's maybe struggling in their career or wants to maybe make a career change, or maybe their relationships aren't 100%. That EQ piece, if that EQ piece is holding you back, there are tools out there. This is what I was missing. I was like, well, if I need to develop, the company will bring it to me. I'm a leader. I'm a hypo. Won't they bring it to me? Like, why do I need to go out and look for my own development? you know? But like, what if anybody's listening to this, what I would say to you is go find your own development, figure out what's working and what's not working. And based on what's not working, go figure it out. There are tools and resources and programs out there and people that have been through it that will wrap around you and give you the support that you get to have in order to take it to that next level, in order to, EQ is about listening, and it's about self-awareness, and it's about self-regulation. And that stuff can't happen when we've got a whole lifetime of the opposite of it, unless we have the safe space.
Yeah.
So my vision is creating that space for people to do that.
And on the neuroscience level, because we always like to bring in the neuroscience, right? And Carol and I have spoken this multiple times. We have a podcast episode just on this. There are 3 roots, so like at the root of it all. And it really is, right? Starting with, are you safe and secure? It starts with that safety piece. And you're right, Tina, if you don't feel safe, you're not going to be able to be yourself, your vulnerable, honest, authentic self. You're going to have the mask on and pretend you're something that you're not. And I love even how you started, Tina, because we had an episode, well, as we're recording, this actually came out today, talking about the bigger goal and the bigger vision and the bigger dreams. And the question of, are you living out your vision or somebody else's? Right. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was there too, right? It all looked good on paper, but just because it looks good on paper, it doesn't mean that you're fully aligned inside. Yeah. And that's why, with your like, with Global Leadership Experience and with your training center as well, retreat center, that full encompass of the mind, body, and spirit and soul, like, which Carol and I will lean into a lot. Like, yes, there's so much with the neuroscience, there's so much with the brain, but there's got to
Yeah.
be alignment with what's going on inside of you as
Yeah.
well. And a lot of times, right, as leaders, you don't take time for that. It's go, 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 strive, 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 right, for the performance because it looks
Yeah.
good. You know, it might feel good because of like, you know, like goal check, goal check, goal check. I know, Carol, that's you, you say that, right? But
Oh,
inside
yeah,
internally,
there's
right?
nothing better than checking that off.
Yeah, yeah. But it doesn't necessarily meet that emotional need
Yeah.
inside of you, right? And so I acknowledge you, Tina, for being so
It's a
open and
quick
honest.
dopamine hit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Versus
Yeah.
that long-term, like full, you know, the
Healing.
identity piece of like
Yeah.
how you're
Yeah.
showing and operating. So
Right.
I'd love for you to just for a second define emotional intelligence, because I know that this is a word we kind of hear out there. I mean, we see it out there, but to truly unpack what it is, so it's not just kind of a word that we might see, to really understand for the listener,
Yeah.
like this is what emotional intelligence is when we're speaking about it, and this is why it is so important when
Yeah.
you are a leader to be in tune with this and really understand the role that it plays for yourself, with your teams and families, right? Because I know that's something else that you
Yeah.
really stand for as part of the vision with GLA.
And I
Right.
know you touched on that. Repeat what you said when you touched on those pieces as you take us deeper on this.
Right.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we think about traditional workplace, it's very masculine. So, and before I even go into masculine and feminine, I'm going to set the stage saying that
We
we
talk about
all
this.
have both masculine and feminine in us. We have them both in us. We choose which one we show up in, right? We choose how we show up. We choose what that looks like. And let's be honest, traditionally in corporate America, we lead with masculine. Like, you know, majority or not, whatever that looks like. But even as a female, what worked for me in corporate was masculine energy.
Yeah.
It's what worked. Didn't align to me and who I was, but it's what worked to get the results. So when we start talking about emotional intelligence, it's bringing in the feminine sides of things, right? It's bringing in the other side of it. So you've got the masculine, you got the feminine. And so it's things like listening, it's things like self-awareness, it's things like self-regulation, those things that people in the past have usually kind of poo-pooed. Let's be honest. Oh, feelings, you're not allowed to have feelings at work. You're not allowed to cry at work. So it's heavy programming in the workplace today that's not necessarily the right programming. So let's just put that out there. It's, you know, there's another way. I'm not going to say right or wrong. It's just what it is. Whatever it is, it is. And there's another way. When we bring those other things in, when I can self-regulate and not freak out at somebody in a meeting, that matters to the team, right? When I can listen in a one-on-one to what you're really saying and to what's really going on so that I know what right question to ask you afterwards. It makes a major difference, not only to that relationship, but it still affects the entire team.
Yeah.
So when we've got people on our teams that are showing up not in their best self, maybe they're not taking care of themselves, they're not, you know, they're working 100. I mean, I would always say, I give this example all the time. Tina, what's most important to you? Well, my family, obviously. And that's truth. That's not it's not like that's a lie. It's truth. My husband and my kids are the most important thing to me on this planet. But I would turn around and work 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
So what I was saying was important and how I was showing up were two different things. Again, misalignment.
Yeah.
So emotional intelligence is literally taking yourself on to create alignment within yourself so that you can show up in a way that's both masculine and feminine, so that you can be balanced. Like it's almost like a balanced leader, an aligned leader. It's an aligned way of living so that when those in the moments happen, because it's in the moment, when everything's going good, we're fine, right? Whenever, you know, think about it. When everybody's working and moving and we're creating results and there's no issues, everybody's great. It's awesome. It's in those moments when something breaks down, in those moments when I said something I shouldn't have, in those moments when I didn't say something that I should have said, in those moments when I'm late handing in the report, in those moments when my team member triggers the heck out of me, you know, in those moments, how are you showing up as a leader? And that doesn't mean that you're the only one with the title, because we are all leaders. This is another thing in corporate. Like leaders get to understand that their team members are leaders as well and get to lead their lives and get to lead the team. So it's really about, especially when we talk about the corporate workplace, it doesn't even have to be corporate. So when we talk about the workplace in general, there's this whole transition that's happening where we're going, no, we get to bring those things in. If you want to retain your female employees, we probably should get a little bit better with emotional intelligence, right? If we want to increase that in our organization, we should probably send our leadership through that kind of training. But what happens is emotional intelligence, it's easy to put it under, oh, it's not that important. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's gotten poo-pooed in the past, right?
Yeah.
The business becomes more important. The business results become more important. Well, guess what? We can't get to the business results unless we have the emotional intelligence to get there, because we're going to be stuck in the conflict. We're going to be stuck in the miscommunication. We're going to be stuck in all the stops instead of being able to go, oh, okay, here's the issue. Here's the challenge. What do we all think? Let's all work together on this. What do we align to? What's our goal? What's our vision? And now when we're all aligned to it, we can move forward. And when we get stuck, we have emotional intelligence to support us through it. And we can have 10-10 relationships on the other side of it instead of creating a path of destruction. I don't know about you guys, but I created all kinds of paths of destruction when I was a leader in corporate. All kinds of them.
Yeah.
All kinds of miscommunications, all kinds of misclarity. Like I created it. And I didn't even realize in the moment that I was creating it. So emotional intelligence is about being able to go onto a team or an organization and say, look, individually we rise and collectively is how we create results.
Yeah.
So until we start tackling this stuff individually and rising up individually and standing in our own leadership and standing in our own power, we're going to continue to get stuck. And so it's emotional intelligence is really a tool to support you to have 10-10 relationships.
Yeah.
And that's what I want in my life. I said that that was most important and that that's what I wanted. And then I was turning around and doing something different. So it's about this idea of really taking yourself on and going, what works in my life? Awesome. I get to double down on that. What's not working? Okay, great. I get to create priority around improving that.
Yeah.
And then staying in that way. But man, in the workplace, we get stuck. We get stuck on the little things. We get stuck on all the stuff. And if I had a magic wand, it would be in the workplace for the leaders, executive leaderships to understand that if you add EQ to the equation, to the IQ that we already have, that's the magic formula. That's the secret sauce. But we get to teach people how to embody it. And that's what's missing.
Wow.
Long answer to your question.
It sounds like you're so beautiful answer. It sounds like you're so specific, about the EQ in the corporate place. But I also heard you touch on EQ in regard to trauma. And, all of us have some version of trauma, if you will, if you want to frame it in that lens. And it's important to acknowledge, and it's important to create that sense of safety and validate the emotions that do come up in order to be able to move out of everything's happening to me state into this is actually something that I have a lot more power and control over than I realized, and it's happening for me state. And so I really appreciate you touching on that. And do you see those traumas, because it's clear that you have insight when you're in the corporate space, and how do you deal with that, particularly in regard to bringing up the emotional intelligence?
Oh God, it's such a good question, because that happens, when I'm doing team agreements, I never know I don't know what's going on in that team. I mean, the people on the team sometimes don't even know what's going on under the covers, right? So I'm coming in and I don't always know what's going on. So it's about holding the space no matter where people are at. I mean, I went into an executive leadership group of a police department several months ago, and presented the team agreements, and it was all day long. And I didn't know, like, sometimes you don't know if you land either. And so it's about being so convicted in the tools and in the process and in the methodology, right? Like, I know that these tools work. I know they've worked for me. I know they've worked for Alex. I know they've worked for you, Carol. I have thousands of other people that I've seen and know that they work for. And so it's about making sure that when I'm in front of that team, that I'm not tied to the outcome.
Yeah.
Right? I get to be confident in what I'm presenting and understand that whoever's in front of me is either going to take it and pick it up or not. Because there's sometimes that, people aren't ready. People aren't ready to do the work. And that's okay. It's okay. So not being tied to the outcome, Carol, I think is the biggest thing. And then being able to handle the in the moment. So in the moment when somebody's having a meltdown, because it happens, we're going through past. I mean, when you do this work, we go back to 0 to 8, because I guarantee you what's happening in the workplace right now that's not working for you is because of your 0 to 8. Guarantee it if we dig deep enough in it. And so it's about having the people surrounding you that understand that can support you as you're working through it, because you never know what's going to happen. I've seen it all. I've seen people walk out of the room. I've seen people have explosions. I've seen people go under the desk. I mean, like, all of it has happened. When we take ourselves on, they call it dark night of the soul for a reason. They say that when you take yourself on and you transform yourself, you're transforming not only yourself, but the 7 generations before you and the 7 generations ahead of you. So if you really think about taking that on, there's going to be some stuff that goes on while you're taking it on. And so being able to just hold that team, hold that person and whatever they're going through right now, and just loving them through it. Because we all went through it. I went through it. And I was a real jerk sometimes, but I had coaches that were standing right there by me, calling my BS, loving me through it. But we have to go there to get through it. You can't get through the breakthrough without going through it. And unless we have those breakthroughs, everything stays the same, right? So I don't know if that answered your question, Carol, but it's really about just holding the space for the people to go through the transformation. It could look 100 different ways. And what I know is that the process of transformation is the same. Transformation is a process. And so if we just stick in that and know that, okay, this is just the next step. All right, cool, great. I'm going to work through it and I'm going to get the support that I need while I'm doing it. How many of us leaders try and do it on our own? Like, for 45 years, I tried to do it on my own. It didn't work. When I got surrounded by the right people, then it made a big difference. So I think it's just being able to hold the space and not being tied to, if somebody moves just a little bit, that gets to be okay. It gets to be okay. If they have a full-blown, transformation in one day, great. That gets to be okay too. So not holding people to any specific expectations. Transformation gets to be whatever it looks like to you to get to the other side.
I love that.
I was gonna say, I think it's just so important for the listeners who are leaders, and I just want to lead back to a lot of what you said, Tina, too. It relates to families. It relates to the relationships, with your children, with your siblings, even with your partner, right? Like, as you said before about the 10 out of 10 relationship, it's being able to acknowledge, be connected, be curious, listen, right? And listen to the listening and really be focused on that vision of what you're creating, and understanding that even at home, like, working through whatever it is that you're working through, like, it is a transformation. Everybody is on their own journey. And I know as a coach and a mentor, right, and as a leader, sometimes it's not easy because we are driven, right? We see the results and we see what's possible for people. And the more that we can be surrendered and unattached to how it looks and just trusting and it's going to turn out the way that it's going to turn out, just knowing that the person's going to experience whatever they experience. And this goes for yourself as listening, as you on the journey, because I know, again, sometimes we want the result yesterday, right? Especially as high performers and those around us. Like, it's just, what's coming to me is more of it is that safe space, and it's being held and it's being comforted. And it's just, it's, I guess collaboration is kind of the word, right? It's like, it's doing it in collaboration, but understand that everybody's on their own process and journey, but you're still doing it together and supporting each other. A big hug. Honestly, what came to mind was like just a really, really big hug for everybody, right? that's going to
Mhm.
experience something very different, because just driving home that transformation is a journey. It is a journey. It is a process. We've had multiple mentors and leadership trainers on here and have said the same thing, right? Like, one, transformation is an inside job, and it really is. There's no destination with transformation. It's something that you just continue to experience. And as we know, as leaders, like, there's always a next level. You can always level up to the next level, and there's always a next breakthrough. And which is also exciting when you do this work, because there is always something else, like a next step there. So speaking about the transformation, I know you have the global leadership experience coming up in the next couple of weeks. Inner Works is the first step of this. So you want to share a little bit about that? So for the listener who is like, okay, I'm ready, Tina. I hear what you're saying. I'm ready to take myself on. I'm ready to shed the mask and break through. How can they join this experience?
Here's what I would say. You don't have to have the answers. I think a lot of people don't step in because they feel like I still don't know exactly what it's about. I don't have the agenda. I don't, all that kind of stuff. But here's what you get to do. You get to trust. You get to trust that we know what we're doing on our end, and that it's purposeful, and that it's intentional, and that we will wrap our arms around you in love, and you just get to jump. And you just get to jump. And it's the only way to do it. And it's freedom, literally freedom on the other side. And so, like I said, the day that I left corporate, I got on a plane and I came to the class that we were holding on September 11th through the 13th. And it was probably the biggest, like brick on my head. I don't know what you call it. Aha, wake up call. I don't know what you want to call it, but I walked away from those 3 days going, oh my goodness, this has literally changed my life, kind of a thing. So it was so impactful for us that we are creating it. We're creating it because hurt people hurt people. Hurt people, hurt people, transform people, transform people. When I found out about these tools, I'm like, I get to create this for the rest of my life for other people, because it's that important and it's that impactful. So September 11th through the 13th, we have a 3-day session. The normal cost for the full 4-month program is $19.99. Anybody who wants to can come to this 3 days. It's $497. You will never find transformation for less than that. It's $497 for the 3 days. You can choose if you want to move forward after that, after you see what it's all about. But I'm telling you that if you're ready, stop looking for the answer. The answer is right here. Just trust and take the jump and take the step, because there are so many people on the other end. Everybody that's probably been on your podcast, you guys, like, there's so many people on the other end that are waiting right there to just catch you and take you to wherever it is that you want to go, because that's where you get to go. That's where you get to go. That we don't have to live in suffering. I lived in suffering for 45 years, like in the dark, not even knowing I was in suffering. And when we wake up and you come out of that and you're like, oh my gosh, this is what life is supposed to be like. I knew it. I knew that there was something more, right? And you finally realize it. And it's just, again, it's the things that we're so programmed not to even think about. And you come to these 3 days and you're like, oh, and it gets you kind of put into lockstep, where now you're in a position to move in whatever direction that you want to move in. And we've got that support for you, whatever that looks like.
And
I love that.
Oh, and you said it, Tina, right? Like, you get so caught up, right? Like, and it's just the wiring, it's the patterns. And so this is a beautiful opportunity to interrupt that in a powerful space, in a place where that is safe, surrounded by others who are on the journey with you, and be able to have, that reset and, kind of rebirth of like, okay, this gets to be life, and have that rejuvenated, life rejuvenation, right? And, I know, Carol, for you also had some amazing breakthroughs and experiences as well. And is there anything you want to share as we wrap up here today, just for the listener to support them too? Because here's the thing: we know what the brain's doing right now, right?
Yeah.
We know what the brain's doing because some of this is unknown, right? And we what is our brain like? Our brain likes safe and familiar. And so what Tina's speaking into, there's some unfamiliar, there is some unknown. But let's maybe just unpack the brain a little bit before we wrap up, so the listener can really have the brain work for you in this situation and not keep you safe and not hold you back from experiencing transformation and opportunities of breakthrough like this.
Yeah. And actually, Tina, alongside that, I would love it, as we're going deep here, and this is really where, if this is you, my friend, lean in here, because what Tina has been sharing with you is extraordinarily profound. It's powerful. Your healing, your transformation that I'm meant for more life is at hand, as she just said. It's right here, it's right now. And Tina, alongside what Alex Leanne just asked you, I would love for you to share something here with us that is going to help us on the journey of being unleashed and unstoppable that you have never shared with anyone before, if you are willing to do so.
Oh my goodness, Carol, you got to prepare me for that question that I've never shared with anyone before. You mean like a tool or something?
Yeah, whatever you want, whatever comes to mind for you.
So this isn't something that I've never shared with anybody, but it's the simplest, easiest thing that I don't share because I think it's silly and stupid and whatever. And when I do share it, people are like, oh my God, I love that. So it's PBJ. We all love PBJ sandwiches, right?
Yeah.
PBJ, PBJ, PBJ. So for me, when I was because this is all about reprogramming, right? It's reprogramming my brain to move in a different direction. So for me, when I get in that moment that I've talked about, like in that moment when I want to choke you, or I want to go off the rails, or I want to have a reaction, or I want to get triggered, or I want to shove it all down, it happens often. No matter how much work we do, guess what? The triggers are always still there. They're always going to be there. That in the moment, something going haywire is always going to be there. How you react to it and how you handle it is the big thing. And for me, I was a huge reactor. Huge reactor. Throw a little narcissism in there. It's all beautiful, right? So what I do with my head, what happens in my head is PBJ, 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 PBJ. And what that means is the P is for pause. Like pause, Tina, pause. Do not say anything. Do not say that. Do not say what you want to say right now. Just pause, pause, pause. And in that moment, I can remember to take a breath, which is the B, breathe. Pause, breathe, PBJ, choose joy. I get to breathe. And in that breath, what does it mean to choose joy right now? What does it mean to choose joy right now? What does it mean to choose joy right now is what's happening in my head. And I'm like, I need to take a 5-minute walk. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I need to go call a friend. I need to go meditate. Whatever it is that I get to have in that moment so that I can come back and show up 100% in my power and in my leadership is what's happening during that choose joy, choose joy, choose joy. So the PBJ is just it's like a simple little tool, but man, I use it all the time. PBJ, PBJ, PBJ.
I love that. I love it. And you did tie in the brain science. It is the rewiring. And the I repeat to myself, I'm a loving, giving, powerful leader. I just repeat it over and over and over, when I need to stand in that space. And I like what you said about the triggers never really going away. I know we'll be wrapping up here, but I really appreciate that because they do still come up. Our emotions, the wiring around our emotions is what goes really deep. And so this whole topic on emotional quotient is something that is significant. And often in the neuroscience realm, people think, oh, it's just thinking. Neuroscience is a study of the whole nervous system. The brain is a part of that. And we have a heart brain, we have a gut brain, our subconscious is housed in our bodies. And so it's really important that we're looking at what causes our beliefs, which is thought and emotion combined. And so this is such a key component of leaning into this transformational work that we're all doing. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So, Tina, where can our listener find registration if they're interested in learning more about GLE and even just to connect with you and learning more about team agreements and what you're up to as well?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of things. TinaPaulusKrause.com is my website. So you can find all of it out there. Team Agreements is out there. So if you have a team of people you'd love to really run through that workshop, that's out there. Global Leadership Academy, or I'm sorry, Global Leadership Experience.com is where you'll find, and we'll put that link in here too. But there's a couple of different ways that you can get into that. You can sign up for the whole program, which is great. If you do that, use GLE1 as a code. It'll get that price down to $1,500. However, that's the whole program. If you want to just test it out, put your toe in the water, know that the $497 will get you into that 3 days of inner works. And like, I wish I get to come up with like the wording in that, but my wish for everyone in this entire universe is that they go through the global leadership experience, because I truly believe the reason why we built it is it's what's going to change the world. Like, I really believe that. I get it's lofty, I get it's big. And when each of us on this planet learns to and understands how to quickly shift and stand in our power in a loving way, we will have a completely different world.
Yeah. And I think that's what is so beautiful and unique about GLA is that the vision, the mission of GLA is the full encompassing, the whole holistic approach, where it's not just working with teams and with the leaders. Next week's episode is going to be all about teen leadership, really tackling teens and working with teens. And so it's a beautiful gift and what you guys have created here to really, it's the full holisticness. You mentioned earlier about the 10 out of 10 relationships. It's having the 10 out of 10 relationships with every single person in your life that you encounter. But it does start with that emotional intelligence piece. And you guys hear me often say this on the podcast, like these are things that they don't teach you in school. And yet these are such profound skills, life skills that we can start off with our young ones and our teenagers right up to, as parents and adults and leaders and CEOs and, entrepreneurs and business owners, right? These are skills that just really do amplify and help really with the full experience of life and what you get to experience that really does get to bring more joy and more life and more excitement when we have these tools. And Carol and I talk about being simple, right? Like working with the brain and even with leadership. A lot of it is really simple. It's just a matter of having them and working not against our brain, but we're working with wiring, right? That doesn't always serve us, and having these tools to interrupt those thought patterns and those patterns that don't serve us to then create that new, fresh, joie de vivre in your life and your leadership and your experience. And so it's just the vision that you guys have for authenticity, for relationships is so beautiful. And for the listener to really understand that this is part of the bigger vision of the Global Leadership Academy, to bring all of this from that holistic approach and working in like different entry points, right? To create that. So
I love that. I love the entry points, because that's exactly what it's like, right?
Yeah.
We have the current state of our world right now is a little cray-cray. And if we get programs out there for adult professionals to go to, great. And then we've got programs for teens, and we got programs for parents when they have a baby, and we got programs for kids going into the schools. And, like wrapping all of the modalities in all of the places that we need to is what's going to create a different tomorrow. And that's exactly what we're doing. Literally one program, one person at a time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Tina, for being here. Carol, I don't know if you had any other questions as we wrap up here. I know that we're at the end of the episode, but
yeah, I feel like I could stay on with you and continue to go deeper because the work is so profound. And the reason that Alex and I know that is because we've experienced this work, and I've seen Alex, you being wrapped by the supportive community of leaders and trainers. I share with you, my friend, that Alex is a leader of leaders. She is a trainer of trainers. She is a coach of coaches. And the reason that she is doing that is because of this deep inner work that she's done. And I've had the privilege of not only being alongside her in that work, but of experiencing these profound differences. And I will tell you right now, I am on the journey. I am in a huge stretch right now. Right. And
what's your stretch right now, Carol?
The stretch right now is 5 daily non-negotiables that are just really quite incredible, including, look, I'll just share them from you. They're from a coach that I'm working with who is at $100 million in net worth. And he was just on Lewis Howe's podcast. His name is Dan Martell. And here's what I'm being stretched to do: repeat my vision 3 times a day. I'm being stretched to do a 45-minute workout every day. I am being stretched to read 10 pages a day, which that one's easy for me. I am being stretched to post on socials 3 times a day and to send direct messages to people that I know, a certain number per day, to engage them in conversation, let them know I care. So
non-negotiables. I love it. Like that's literally somebody you could start off with that. If you have not done any of this work, you could say, what are the 5 things every single day that I know if I do will create success in my life, and literally start working off of those. Are you going to be, are you perfect at it, Carol?
I've just started, so absolutely not. I am a recovering perfectionist, so I get to start where I am and do it messy, but I'm committed.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, yeah. And so just again, thank you, Tina, for being here and illustrating, what we get to do. We're designed for reward. We're designed for growth. We are wired for growth. And if we're not growing, we're going backwards. So I would just invite you to dive in. This transformational work makes such a difference. And I really would love to see you have that full life, the fulfilling life, the satisfaction that you absolutely deserve. So thank you for being here, Tina.
And as you know, in the show notes, we'll have the links, and there's also a place to send us a text message. So if you do have any questions that are coming up, we would be more than happy to answer and support you. But we do take a stand for, being source of a transform world, and really being a stand for who you are, and for you, listener, for the transformation that you get to experience. And so trust, take the leap, and your transformation is just on the other side of that breakthrough. So thank you.
Right there if you want it. It's right
thank
there.
you for joining us this week, Tina. Thank you for listening to another episode, listener, and we will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye. Ciao for now.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review, and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.